Yes, we are live. Hello, guys, and welcome to another video today. So, first, I'll be asking, have you ever wondered how football contract works? So, the title is How Football Contract Works. I'm going to give you guys details about it from beginner's point of view. So, have you ever wondered how football contract works? I'll break this down to you every little bit so that you can understand the key clauses that can impact your career when it comes to football contracts. So first, we'll be looking at topics like, or details like, what is a football contract, the difference between amateur and professional contracts, key elements in contract, salary, bonuses, clauses, and contract length, release clauses and buyout clauses, what happens when a player transfers to another club, and also how agents or lawyers help with contracts. And lastly, termination and contract breaches. What happens if these go wrong? So that is what we are going to be looking at today. I'm Auto Brian, FIFA licensed agent, currently living in Finland, also performance trainer. So I do a lot also as an entrepreneur. That's another title, so you can add that into it. So these are the things we're going to share to you guys today, and then we will go from there and I'll explain the details for so that you can understand. So the first thing I'll look at is what is a football contract. So normally the general population always know that the football contract is just like you going to a football club and signing with a player, and that's it. But a football contract is bigger than that. It's more than that. There are a lot of things that involves for you to actually put pen on paper within a football club. With a football club. So a football contract is legally binding agreement between between a player and a club, which is being represented by an agent. So I give an example. If I have a player, I'm representing that player who has a contract with me. Then I take him to the football club. So we do a contract there that the player can play for that club. So it defines terms of employment, salary, benefits, and responsibilities. So in that that contract that the club offers you, it has these things: employment terms, salary, benefits, and responsibilities. Because this is a professional contract. Let's take, for example, it also ensures that both clubs and the player understand their rights and obligation. So on that contract also you will see a lot of things that you don't go astray, so that maybe you disturb the players or whatsoever. So there are always lots of things put into the contract so that you don't go astray, and also the club also don't mess around with you. That's where FIFA always come in. So those are just the basics. I'm not going to go into really deep details, as I've been also explaining to you guys here, but we always have time to always go into certain things. Yeah, but anyways, let's look at the next part, which is the difference between an amateur and a professional contract. So what is that? Oh, first of all, who is an amateur player? We know a professional player is a player that plays football based on salary, and he plays just that. So if you're a professional player, you don't do anything. Your job is just to focus on playing. You're being paid. It's like a job for you're being paid to play football. Whereas an amateur player, we're going to talk about the difference between amateur and professional players. So an amateur player, let's start from there. These are players who do not receive salary but might get smaller allowances. These are amateur players to compensate them. So that for them to earn a living, which means an amateur player is someone who can be earning some small allowances here, but still doing his normal day-to-day job activity, or he might also be playing and also maybe doing some services for the team. That's an amateur player. Yeah, like coaching the kids or whatsoever, or doing maybe something services actually. So these actually usually happen to players at lower tier, like fourth division, the fifth division, whatsoever, third division, in various leagues or whatever, or some leagues, the third division at professional level. But yes, you understand what I mean. Whereas a professional player, these are players paid wages, bonuses, and other benefits like performance incentives. So, and also the rules and regulations also like amateur are also governed by FIFA and their national football associations. The payment also can include like sponsorship deal, image right, and all those kind of clauses, which is going to help them get more and more benefit. So a professional player is one apart from all these clauses, but someone who is being paid just to play football. Nothing as if you're offering other services like you are doing cleaning or you're driving players after after game. That's part of your job because you have a driver's license. All these kind of things. You're not a professional player. You don't do any other work like when after training. Part of your job is to drive the players because they don't have someone who drives the player home, and you help for that. So that doesn't work like that. So key element in contract. Let's talk about a key element in contract: salary and bonuses. That's important. Base wages, win bonuses, goal bonuses. This is like a professional contract. These are the key elements you see in. For example, you can sign a striker and to motivate him, the club might say, okay, apart from your salary, we're going to say if you score 20 goals a season, there is a bonus. This is where it comes into your contract. That, okay, he has a bonus that is going to be activated if at the end of the season he scores, for example, 20 Premier League goals. We're going to pay him this amount of money. So that is how bonuses work at the elite level. And then the contract length for a professional should be between 1 to 5 years. Of course, now you see various countries like Chelsea, like in the UK, some people offering 7 years contract or whatever. But that's because the National Association of Finland accepts that. The FA of Finland accept that. But the normal rules and regulation, and according to FIFA rules and regulation, the length of a contract is between 1 to 5 years. That's it. So if you that's the standard length of contract. So now we'll talk about performance clauses. These are like also extra payment for appearance, goals, and trophies. As we said, also like bonuses. Performance, like for example, I give an example. A player of Bruno Fernandes, he might be playing very well for Manchester United, and the others, he's always pulling the team out. He's always carrying the team on his shoulder, and maybe when he wants to sign his new deal, he said, "Okay, I'm earning 250 a week, but what if we say if I am maybe the best player in the club this year, I can get this certain percentage." All these kind of things is when when you have a good agent who knows how these things work, who knows how to negotiate this kind of contract. For example, if I was to negotiate a Bruno Fernandes contract, those are the kind of things I'll be looking at because I see the club relies on him, and the club will always depend on him because he has been always producing year in year out since he came to the Premier League. So those are the kind of things you want to benefit when you have a kind of plan like that. And the next thing is image right. Image right is, of course, the clubs own your image right, but image right also, when I say they own your image right, they are like, for example, when a club signs you, they have the right to put you in the poster when the game is coming up on a weekend. They put you the picture, for example, those kind of things like that during photo shoots and everything. But your image right also, you do also own your right to say, let's take, for example, if you have an Adidas contract, you can go also sign that deal. So you also own your right. But they have also been troublesome, or there have also been problems at this area where, for example, I'll give an example like Neymar. When Neymar was at Paris, he had to always try to look his right, so that it doesn't, let's say, they don't have a problem with the image rights of when he was working when he was playing for Paris. He doesn't have a problem with the club when they're trying to do certain things. So the both companies, the company was signing for, whether it was Nike before or Puma, they always try to find a way to try to have an understanding of the player who is the brand, because they both are trying to look for for the common interest, which is like getting enough exposure from the player, because the player carry very huge amount of fan base. I hope I did explain that part to you guys, but it's just, in short, it's like the image rights. The brands always try to find a way to work with themselves so that they don't bring a controversy between them both, for the benefit for everyone. Sponsorship and endorsement deals. Some contracts include personal sponsorship deals. When we talk of sponsorship and endorsement deal, for example, yes, sponsorship, as we said, with Nike and every other part, or just any other things that the brands that want to use you for marketing purpose or whatsoever. So these also are also very huge deals that consist that contracts that an agent has to know how to negotiate all these things. Then the next thing we'll be talking about is release clause and buyout clauses. The release clause is, I'm going to explain a release clause. A release clause is a fixed amount that, if paid to a club and the player is allowed to leave. Let's say, for example, if a club signs me or signs you and say, my release clause is 20,000 or 20 million euros. The moment another club comes and pays that release clause, my club has no saying because they put that release clause. The other club has paid it and has activated it. That was how it happened with Neymar. Barcelona, when Barcelona probably was renewing Neymar's contract, they put they put a 220 million release clause, not knowing that Neymar was that good that Paris had the money that they could sign that kind of player. And when Barcelona discovered that Paris are going to trigger this, they tried to change everything, but it was really too late. It couldn't work. So that was how Neymar left Barcelona to Paris, because Paris never went to the table with Barcelona to negotiate anything because he had a release clause. They just went and paid out the release clause. So that was how it works. So these clauses are actually clauses that when an agent sees, you have to always know how to work on this, or to see if you have a client to benefit these kind of issues, or know how these things work. Let's say know how these things work. So, and let's look at next what happens when a player transfer. So let's look at this. So if a player is under contract, then the buying club has to negotiate a fee. So if I'm having a 5 years contract with my club, the person coming to buy me has to negotiate, or whatsoever amount, the person has to negotiate a fee. If there's a release clause, of course, exists, then the club can just go and pay that the release clause. Can just go and pay that release clause and get me. So those are how the things work. But if there's no release clause, then you have to come through the club and negotiate and speak. Okay, we can talk about this. Your player, I want to buy him. So that's how it goes. So, and now the role of an agent. So as we said, we started from the beginning. Agents negotiate contracts. You guys have to know they can bring you big sponsorship deals. Let's take, for example, if you are a client or a player for Josh Mendes, who have been negotiating multiple Nike deals and endorsement Nike deals, Adidas deals from his client, it's easy also for him to get you into that, because he already knows someone into the Nike company because he has been doing a lot of deals with them, so he can bring you up already with his contact. So these are quite very important things. And as I said, a good agent can help you land better deals, better sponsorship deals, and all whatnot. A lot of these things. And the last one, let's look at termination and contract breaches. So let's get it clear here. Contract can be terminated by mutual agreement. If not, the person terminating that contract will have to pay compensation. So there are many ways contract can be terminated. Let's say, let's take for example, you sign for a club and then you're not playing, then you want to terminate your contract, which you have to know why you have to know also the things that are triggered into that contract. For example, if you play less than 10% of a game, of the games of the season, you're allowed to trigger to terminate a contract based on sporting merit, that you haven't played the amount of game. This one is less than 10. If you play for a season, you play less than 10% of a game, you at least FIFA's rule says that you can terminate your contract based on that. Then also wages. Also, if a club doesn't pay your wage, for 2 months, you're allowed to also give them, let's say, 15 days notice before you terminate your contract. So these are all the things that you look into before, if you're terminating a contract, because those are your rights. But apart from that, If a contract is to be terminated, it has to be terminated by mutual agreement by both parties. If not, the contract cannot be terminated. So these are the reasons that a contract can be terminated. It's for you not to pay a fine. Apart from all these reasons I'm giving, if you do go ahead and terminate a contract without no justification, let me put it like that, you're going to pay a huge fine for compensation for breaching the contract. So those are part of the things I had to teach you guys and make you guys also learn this. These are from the FIFA rules and regulation that I'm these are most of the FIFA rules and regulation standard rules. So keep in mind that also these rules, if you know it well, is going to help you negotiate a lot of contracts. For example, an agent who knows a lot of these rules is going to help you break the transfer market, or when you're negotiating this with your player, for your player, when you sit on the table and you know these rules and regulations, it helps. For example, if you're walking into a deal and you know normally the percentage an agent has to receive for commission is like 3%. I give an example. And if you walk into the deal with a sporting director and you are negotiating for a player and you're saying that my player needs to have 6%, the sporting director already know that, okay, I'm dealing with someone who doesn't know the rules and regulation who doesn't know how transfer or negotiate this thing works. He doesn't know FIFA rules and regulation. So those are things that before you carry a client or you sign someone to represent within a club, you have to know for a club. Represent the client. You have to know all these things, because the person when you sit with sporting directors, they have their lawyers or whatsoever they have on the table. You have to know all these things by the top of your head. You have to learn to know that 3% and salary can be maximum 1 to 5 years. The bonuses, if the player is good, this is how I can manage to negotiate the bonuses with him. All these little things. I'll give an example. As I always said, I have a friend that I was negotiating a contract for him that with a team that in Kayani, my close friend. So when I was talking to the club, they agreed on a lower salary. But the salary wasn't sufficient. So we stood still. At that point. And because I knew my client who is my friend, was never going to play for that particular salary, because I knew there are certain things that he needed to do. That he needed for himself to get better, to train better, to do his activity or his physical work, to be well prepared for the season. So the negotiation was stopped, and after 2 weeks, the sporting director or the person controlling the club rang me again and said, okay, what about the client again? And then we negotiated it again, and then we came to a fixed price that my client was happy, and he was happy with the salary and everything, and it went from there. So you have to also know the value, because if you know the rules and regulation, then you know the value of you know what to do. But if you don't know the rules and regulation, each time you sit on the table, you're panicking that, oh, I hope they don't say anything that I don't know yet, then I'm lost. Yeah. For example, if you're going on the paper and they say, okay, the percentage, instead for you to fill the paper, you put 5%, it's already wrong. So everything in contract negotiation, you have to really know those details. So I'll encourage you guys to try to read. If you want to become an agent, try to read a lot of the FIFA study materials, and also try to get in contact with experienced agents. Just try to communicate and see how deals work. And also another thing I'll speak on is like sponsorship deals. The sponsorship deals are the things that, because I was speaking to one agent online, and he was telling me how he did a sponsorship with a player who moved to Juventus in Italy. So he was telling me a little bit deep on how those things work, that it's even more sometimes complicated to negotiate a sponsorship deal than the normal contract deal. Because the normal contract deal, you already have all the paper on the table. You know the length of the length of the contract. The length of the contract. Is he a first team player? Is he going to be a regular? All those things, whether the player is going to be a very important player for the club and everything like that you speak. And then the salary, what bonuses, all those basic things that they are there that you can see on the paper. But with the sponsorship, it comes with a little bit of trickiness because your image rights and all those things are a little bit also difficult to negotiate for, especially if you are a huge if you're a huge brand, if you're a huge player. And then also when you are also an amateur player who has just signed a professional contract, let's take for example, then Adidas say that, oh, this guy is going to be a big player. So Adidas and Nike are probably running into you for a sponsorship deal for you to give you boots and all those things. Then into that at that point also, when Adidas and Nike are running for you, they don't also actually know your value. If because you are a young player, they don't actually know your value, how they can rate you. Are you going to be that player that go so fast up, or you're going to be a steady growth? So there are always a lot of variables in the negotiations that a sponsorship deal sometimes is even more challenging to negotiate than normal contract deals. So that was a little bit of details I wanted to give you guys. So my advice to also the agents is, if you're facing difficulties, also I wrote a book about contract, which is on my LinkedIn. I wrote a book on contract law, everything you need to know when negotiating a contract with a football club, and also how you can gain network to be able to communicate with clubs and sporting directors, because this is one of the things I always tell people. It's also a skill set that people don't know. I'll give an example also, because I like to give example. So normally when you're an agent or an upcoming agent, it's always hard to to speak with sporting directors. So when you're speaking with this, probably you write 10 messages and no one replies. You write 15 messages and no one reply. So, but this is how you speak to sporting directors. I will say this because before starting to learn how to network, I also had to contact a lot of people that I'm trying to gain experience from them. One of them, I will shout him out, is former agent of Mesut Ozil, because he has also been very instrumental when we have meetings online. Dr. Eckert, that's his name. He always tried to give us a little bit of, or give me a little bit of advice also. So one of the questions I always ask him is, how do you break the deadlock of negotiating with sporting directors? Yeah, he said, of course, you have to be persistent. But first, the thing is, you have to provide value. So what do I mean you have to provide value? Before you contact a sporting director, let's give an example. If I'm an agent, I have to contact a sporting director. Let me give you this, so that if you're contacting many sporting directors, this is how it works. The sporting director actually also want a good player. That's the first thing you have to know. You also want a good player to sign under you, so that you can be able to sell to football clubs. I said the players to football clubs. So each and every one of you want a good player. And the player himself also want a good agent who will be able to negotiate his contract. So you see that these three variables all want one and the same thing. But it's the way you pitch to each other. So with an academy player, before you pitch that player, let's take, for example, the player is playing for a team called Coops. I'm just giving an example because it's a team I'm quite used to. Most of the time, let's say the player is 16 years, try to go to Coops to watch that player from academy, watch their games. When you watch the games, normally their parents always come to take them around, take them home and everything. So you have to always, when you watch the game, this is how you start a conversation. Let's take, for example, after the game, and you might say, oh, good play, something like good play. It was nice seeing you play. And you just say, just few words, encouraging word. There's nothing you need to talk so intensive with that player at that time. Because when you're trying to build a relationship, everyone wants a compliment. You want to compliment him, and you don't want to talk about yourself. You just want to talk about him. So what mistake many people always make is, when you approach someone for the first time and you're talking and bringing the conversation towards you, it's quite difficult for the person to listen to you, because you're not making them feel, because you're not talking anything interested to them. They're not really interested in you at that time. But let me give an example. So if I went for a 16-year-old player playing football and I say, oh, that was a nice pass you did there, and well, good, it was nice watching you And yes, I will just come back. I would like to watch you play more and more often after just saying, maybe complimenting and say good game after shaking his hand. Yeah, you had a good game today. Every player likes to hear that kind of word. You have a good game today. I would like to watch you more. Yes, I'll come again when it's your next game and just to watch you. And the next game when you come, you just watch him. You play and probably after the game and you go and shake his hand. So, oh my, you were so fantastic today. Maybe you try to notice what he did on the field. Did he do key passes or whatsoever he was doing? You say, oh, you were so fantastic today. It was nice to see you. And then, by then, now what you start to do is you're building a relationship with him, not knowing. The next time you come there, because it's an investment, the next time you come there, instead, you have to talk to him and say, okay, you have been playing very good. So where do you live? You start to go now a little bit more deep. Do you have are your parents always bringing you here and you try to communicate how is football going? You start to know a little bit more about him. Then before now, what you start to also talk about yourself, who you are, and all those things. But the first two time you meet him or the first time, you don't have to say anything about yourself. You just have to give value. That's your way to give value to a player, like appreciate him, speak something different to him. So those are the most important things you have to do. They say provide value, then the next one will come naturally. So from there now you can also talk to his parents and start to introduce yourself if you have been watching his game regularly. Because to be a relationship takes time. It doesn't just happen like this. Relationship takes time, and when it's built and with trust, then the people can trust you. Then before you can say what you're saying. But you cannot just come from face there and say, hi, my name is Brian. I'm a FIFA licensed agent. I take players to these people. And whereas if they go and check, if the players check your background, you're still a starting agent. He's not really comfortable with you because you haven't built that trust with him. But if you build that trust when you're still a starting agent, then it's quite easy for the player to trust you and go ahead. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, but anyways, those were the few things I wanted to just jump to talk about it about this, because most of you guys always ask me how do you build a relationship and how does it work. I wanted to speak about this so that you people know that relationship takes time and you have to build it from it takes trust. It's not that the people don't like you, but it has to take trust. Okay, that was it for this video, and I hope you guys had fun and enjoyed. So leave a comment, and if you want something, if you want maybe any question, leave a comment and I'll get back to you when I start reading the comments. Take care and talk to you tomorrow. Cheers. Have a nice day. Bye.